Hey up guys, I'm Mason, the blind wrestling fan, and this is my Hell in a Cell 2020 review. Come with me and take a look at Hell in a Cell through my eyes. If you enjoy this episode of Wrestling in the Dark, slap the like button and remember to subscribe so that you don't miss anything in future. To be honest with you, this was a mixed pay-per-view. There was some stuff that I really liked, that I enjoyed, and some stuff that I thought was pointless, and I just hated it. It's a shame that pay-per-views have to be a certain length. They feel like they've got to be around the 3-hour mark, because it could have been a really solid, tight pay-per-view if it had just been the 3 cell matches and the Otis and Miz match, but they have to pad things out and do certain things. Having Lashley versus Slapjack, really random, and also not good for Retribution at all. They are just getting hammered into the ground at the minute, and it's getting slightly frustrating. And then Jeff versus Elias, that one, it seemed pointless to start with. It was really quick, not much happened. But in terms of the 3 cell matches, the Roman versus Jay, Sasha versus Bayley, Randy versus Drew, they were all good and they were all different. It's just a shame, because with me not being able to see, there's just certain spots that I can't appreciate as much as a sighted person. There's certain things that don't have as much impact. Weapon shots, those sort of things, they just don't have as much impact because it's just me picturing it, which on one hand you'd think would be more effective because it's just my imagination. They don't need to look fake. You don't need to be like, oh, that was botched, or they didn't lay that in quite as hard as they could have, whatever. But at the same time, I don't know, it just doesn't have the impact. There was definitely parts of the Sasha Bayley match that I was like, yeah, if I could have seen, that would have been a little bit better. But yeah, in terms of the whole pay-per-view, I feel pretty mixed about it. So let's get to the actual matches and see what happened. To my surprise, they kicked things off with Roman versus Jay. I was under the impression that this was going to be the actual main event. I was convinced of it. So when I put the show on and this kicked it off, I was utterly surprised, but in quite a pleasant way, because it just really eased me into the show, got me in the mood for it. On the other hand, it was the match that I was looking forward to the most, and afterwards I just felt like I could have stopped watching then and there, because I loved this match. I thought it was goddamn brilliant, man. I thought that it made Jay look great. I thought that it made Roman look really dominant, and also gave him some really good character depth. There was some emotional beats. It doesn't matter that I can't see the in-ring action with a match like this. I don't need to see what's going on to appreciate the story that's being told. This is it's a TV show, movie storyline. It's about family, blood, cousins fighting for dominance, people who've been close all of their lives changing and butting heads, and I just thought that it was so good. Roman's talking trash from the start. Jay tells him that he's changed, and Roman says that he's changed for the better. He had to change. It's what he had to do to keep the family where it needs to be. He starts off dominant. He's on top of Jay, but eventually Jay fights back, gets a flurry, sends Roman to the outside, starts driving him into the cell repeatedly. After a little bit of this, Roman hits a spear pretty quickly. He tells Jay to quit. He says that he knew that one spear wouldn't do it, but tells him that if he doesn't quit, in 10 minutes he's going to wish that he quit right then and there. But he doesn't. It doesn't take long for Roman to hit spear number 2, and commentary sell it like it absolutely killed Jay. Roman starts talking trash to him again. He tells him that he's making him a bad guy. He doesn't want to do what Jay's making him do. All he needs to do is just acknowledge him, give him his due, but Jay isn't doing it. Then Roman goes for spear number 3, but Jay counters with a super kick and hits a pair of Uso splashes to gain control. Now that Jay's in control, he decides that he wants to dish out some punishment. He calls Roman a bitch and starts laying into him with a leather strap. He calls Roman the big dog shit, which made me laugh quite a bit. But this disrespect just fires Roman up and he hits spear number 3. Now he's got the strap and he tells Jay that he's the one that does the whipping, and he starts laying in these nasty sounding strap shots. It's just not looking good for Jay at this point, but somehow he manages to get back into it. He takes control again, and commentary doesn't do a particularly great job here, but he presumably chokes Roman out with the strap until Roman passes out. Any other time, Jay would be Universal Champion now, but it's an I Quit match. Roman has to say the words so the match isn't over. Eventually, Roman fires back up, hits a Superman punch, locks Jay in the guillotine and demands that he quits, and he tells them that if he doesn't, he's going to take it to the next level. Roman does something with the steps. Commentary sell it like it was really nasty, but they don't actually say what it was. I'd have preferred to know what the actual spot was, but I just pictured Roman smashing Jay in the face with the steps. I'd have preferred to know what actually happened, but my imagination filled in the gaps good enough for me, and to be honest, at this point I just didn't really care because I was too invested in the emotional beats of the match. The ref wants to stop the match at this point. He's telling Roman that Jay's out of it, he's defenceless, he can't do anything. He's begging Roman to stop, but Roman will not have it and he throws the ref out of the ring. Heyman's begging Roman to stop, officials run down, they're begging Roman to stop, but he's not having it. He tells Jay that he understands that they tested Roman when they were kids, but they're grown men and he's still testing him now, making him do things that he doesn't want to do. Then Jimmy comes down. He tells Roman, that's Jay, that's Josh, lying in the middle of the ring. He tells him to look at him. He's like, that's Josh, whatever you're going through, whatever's going on, we can get through this, we can fix it, we can stop this. And Roman breaks down. He tells Jimmy, I don't know who I am anymore. He tells him that he's sorry, and Jimmy tells him, it's all love, it doesn't matter, we can just stop this. But Roman attacks. He goes after Jimmy, and this is when Jay wakes up and he has to quit to save his brother. In terms of in-ring action, was this a masterclass? No. Was this something that you'd put on an NXT takeover? No. But it didn't need to be that. It was such a good story. From the part where the ref starts begging him to stop and everyone's begging him, it just became so emotionally investable. I couldn't believe what was happening and I was just so into it. And then when Jimmy come out, I was like, you're gonna get laid out, mate. But at the same time, there was a part of me that really thought that Roman might actually stop, like he might just walk away and leave Jay in the middle of the ring and it'd be over. And when he told Jimmy, I don't know who I am anymore, and said sorry, I don't think that it was a ploy. It wasn't, I'm going to lure you into a full sense of security. I really think that he believed that, but then just, he knew that he had to go after Jimmy and assert his dominance, and then that being when Jay wakes up and having to quit, not to save himself, not because of the punishment that he's been through, but that because he can't bear to see his brother go through the same punishment that he's been through. Oh mate, it was so good. I just loved it. I can't really express how much I really enjoyed this, and I just thought it was perfectly executed. Where they're going to go from here, I don't know. Who's going to face Roman next, I don't know, but the fact that Jay is now Roman's indentured servant and he's going to have to be at Roman's beck and call is just perfect, and I can't wait to see this story unfold. They have put Roman in a great place with this. He's such a good villain because he's not just a chicken shit heel. He's not just, I'm doing this for the sake of it. He has motivation, he's got depth, and it just, yeah, it was perfect, man. Really great opening to the show. So we go from one of the highest points of the show, probably the highest in my opinion, this really well told, deep story, to Jeff Hardy versus Elias, which was just one of the lowest points. Not the lowest, because it wasn't Slapjack versus Bobby Lashley, but it was a pretty pointless filler type thing, and to be honest, I didn't enjoy it at all. Elias comes out, does his usual stuff, plugs his album Universal Truth, which is out tonight, Monday night, and he makes some lame jokes about being in the Thunderdome and watching the filthy people at home, and makes some cheap jokes about Jeff Hardy's alcoholism. Then the match starts. Tom starts off the match with a great Tomism. It just says, Jeff Hardy snaps that neck of Elias, and I couldn't help just picturing Jeff just breaking Elias's neck and then just walking off and leaving him there in the middle of the ring. It is a Halloween pay-per-view after all. Yeah, that's a Tomism. More Tomisms too, because then we get the Daredevil off the steps. Oh, ribs first into the barricade, and then can you tell I hate Tom Phillips? Then we actually do get a couple of moves called. Hardy hits an inverted Tomic drop and drop kick. He goes for a twist of fate, but Elias counters, hits a power bomb. Eventually we get a whisper in the wind, twist of fate. Hardy goes up top, but Elias rolls out of the ring. Jeff goes after him. Elias tries to deck Hardy with the guitar, but Hardy does it to him instead, and Elias wins by disqualification. Yeah, I said Elias was going to win. Did I think it was going to be by disqualification? No, but I was still right, so fuck you. Honestly, they weren't in the best spot because they had to follow up a really great match, but this match just didn't belong on pay-per-view in my opinion. Maybe on one of the lesser ones. I know that Hell in a Cell isn't one of the A-tier pay-per-views, but it just felt like a little bit of a waste of time, and like I said, it's a shame that pay-per-views have to be a certain length, because this was just sandwich filler, and not even good sandwich filler. It was like egg cress. Right, yeah, so then we go from that to Otis versus Miz with the Money in the Bank briefcase on the line. And this one, oh man, this one, the finish annoyed me, but I'll talk about it when I get to it. It won't take me long, trust me. Miz looks for the skull-crushing finale early. Otis counters, takes control for a bit until Morrison distracts him. Miz hits a DDT and starts laying in the it kicks. He hits a boot to Otis's face that commentary sell like it caved Otis's face in, like it was death, like he'd had an anvil dropped on him from a great height. They just sold it like it was death. It was ridiculous. Eventually, Otis gets back into it, drops Miz face first, according to the commentary. I hate those sort of calls. He goes for the caterpillar, but Morrison distracts him. Otis goes after Morrison, and when he gets back in the ring, Miz hits him again with a big kick. Morrison tries to get involved again, ref ejects him from ringside. Otis hits a discus clothesline, covers Miz, but then Miz kicks out, and then, shock horror, on the outside, Tucker clocks Otis in the face with the briefcase, feeds into the Miz, and the Miz picks up the win. Well done, fickle WWE fans, you've done it again. This, oh my god, it annoys the hell out of me, man. Remember a few months back when Otis was just really hot, everyone loved him, he won the Money in the Bank briefcase, and it didn't take long for everyone to just turn on him. He's not World Championship material, look at him, he's not the sort of guy we want as the World Champion. Money in the Bank does not need to be a guaranteed cash-in every single time. It doesn't need to mean that they win the championship. He could have cashed in on Drew or cashed in on Roman and put in a really good performance, and it could have made him look like a star. But instead, we get this, Tucker betraying him, which is just broken friendship. These two bitter former friends, that's what we're going to get for the next couple of months. Well, Miz swans it up, getting another main event run. We get Otis, who's now going to not care about the briefcase, he's just going to be going after Tucker instead, and those two are going to get lost in the mid-card. Maybe they'll bring Otis back around to it eventually, but my god, was I annoyed by this. Afterwards, Miz cuts a promo, and it's actually a pretty good one. He talks about the fact that the briefcase isn't a prop, it's not a lunchbox, it's something serious, and Otis took it for granted, just like he took Tucker for granted. Tucker tells Miz that it's not about him, and he cuts a promo of his own where he says that Tucker was always the afterthought, even though he was the workhorse, even though he was the one that put in all the hard work. The spotlight always got shone on Otis, and yeah, he's bitter about it. He didn't get the attention that he felt like he deserved, and it's fair enough. I wouldn't mind, but you do this, and then the next match is Sasha versus Bayley, which is, guess what? These two former best friends, now bitter rivals, and it's just the same thing. It feels like sometimes this is all they know how to do. Just, oh, let's just have these friends turn on each other. Let's just do this again. And it just... Can you tell? Can you tell that it wound me up? I'm way too worked up about it, but when I thought about it afterwards, it just annoyed me. I would have preferred Morrison to distract him and Miz to thumb him in the eye and cheat to win and or something like that, but just to have Tucker do it, and now them two are going to go after each other and Miz is going to go off and he can, you know, he can believably cash in, especially on the WWE champion going forward. He can definitely cash in and have a believable match, but I just, yeah, this happened. From one broken friendship to another, it's another Hell in a Cell match, Sasha versus Bayley for the SmackDown Women's Championship. This one was actually pretty good. I enjoyed it. In terms of in-ring action, it was probably one of the best matches, if not the best. No, in fact, I will say it was the best. There was just plenty of innovation and inventive spots, but at the same time I didn't feel like I got as much out of it as someone who could have seen it might have. So it starts off with Bayley coming down to the ring. She's got a chair in hand. Commentary sells it like this is the symbolic chair of their broken friendship, and she brings it down to the ring, and then I'm not particularly sure what happens, but presumably Sasha gets it off her, throws it outside of the cell, and they sell it as if it's this really bad thing, and I'm thinking, what a shame there won't be any chairs underneath the ring. This is a Hell in a Cell match. There's never any weapons in these matches. Sasha starts off pretty hot. It doesn't take her long to lock in a bank statement, and Bayley has to bite her hands to get free. She goes after Sasha with a kendo stick, but Sasha keeps on dodging. Eventually, Sasha manages to drive a table into Bayley's midsection, and she hits her with a pair of Meteoras. Then she sets up a kendo stick between the cell and the steel steps. She prepares to drive Bayley into that, but she ends up being the one that gets driven into it instead. They start going back and forth, each woman hitting big moves trying to put the other one away. Sasha powerbombs Bayley into the cell. Eventually, Bayley gets a sunset flip, driving Sasha into a chair for a near fall. Sasha gets a bank statement in, Bayley wriggles to the outside, ties Sasha up in the ring apron and starts battering her with a kendo stick. But she takes too long as she tries to set up some sort of multiple kendo stick atrocity to attack Sasha with, and Sasha gets a fire extinguisher and manages to spray Bayley in the face. Later, Sasha goes for a frog splash, but Bayley manages to get a chair up to protect herself. Bayley goes after Sasha with a chair, but Sasha dodges, hits Bayley with a Meteora, and then nails her with a Bayley to belly on the ladder. It could have been over there. Defeating Bayley with her own finishing move would have been quite poetic, but no, the champ kicks out. Eventually, Bayley ends up getting a Bayley to belly of her own, but Sasha kicks out of that, and then everything comes full circle. Sasha manages to lock in the bank statement with a chair wrapped around the neck of Bayley, and Bayley has to tap out, so Sasha wins the Women's Championship. I actually thought that was a really cool finish. Involving the chair in it was a really great way to do it. It always had to go that way, really, considering that they were really playing up the chair as this symbolic, this symbol of their broken friendship. I just thought it worked really, really well. I wish that I could have seen this match. It it is one of those matches that just makes me wish that I could see what was going on, because even though they're describing all of the weapon shots and the innovative spots, it's just not the same trying to fill in the imagination. And yeah, the story was good, but I think this was definitely more about the in-ring action, so I probably didn't enjoy it quite as much as everyone else did, but I still thought that it was the second best match of the night for sure. This pay-per-view was a roller coaster because it's just up and down and up and down, and they climb up to a peak with Sasha versus Bayley, and then they just base jump off it, and it turns out that they forgot the parachute and they just slam into the floor, leaving a pay-per-view sized hole in the ground. Bobby Lashley versus Slapjack is next. It doesn't take long for Bobby Lashley to get a stalling suplex. Slapjack fights back, sends Lashley into the turnbuckles, hits him with a drop kick, a cannonball, a DDT. Eventually, Lashley gets an overhead belly to belly, a spine buster, locks in the hurt lock, and Slapjack taps out. Then Retribution come running out, they attack, Hurt Business come running out to even the odds, and Retribution gets the hell out of there. They're done. They're just done. How are they supposed to come back from the way that they've been treated recently? Poor Mustafa Ali has been attached to this in the last couple of weeks. At least the rest of them have been at this for a few months now. Ali's only just been added to it, and it's just getting absolutely hammered into the ground. They got beat on Monday. Lashley beat T-Bar. He's now beaten Slapjack. The Fiend buried them all by attacking them, and now they've lost again on pay-per-view, and how are they supposed to come back from this? I don't even want to talk about it anymore. Main event time, with the WWE Championship on the line. Randy Orton takes on Drew McIntyre inside Hell in a Cell. This one was different to the others. I actually thought that the good thing about these 3 cell matches was that they all had different flavours. The Roman vs Jey one had the story to it. The Sasha vs Bayley was the creative in-ring action one, and this was just a brawl. Randy trying to capture another WWE Championship, Drew McIntyre being pissed off and just trying to just put Randy in his place, and I actually thought it was pretty good. I don't think it was a scratch on the other two, but I did enjoy it. To start off, Randy tries to sneak attack Drew, but Drew's expecting it, and they just brawl on the outside for a little bit. Once they get to the inside and the match officially starts, Randy looks for the RKO early, but Drew just tosses him out of the ring, and then takes a few minutes to just ragdoll Randy around, into the cell multiple times, into the post, decks him in the face with the steel steps. Orton fights back as Drew goes for a claymore. He gets a chair and just attacks Drew's knee. He goes after Drew's previously injured jaw, leathers him with multiple chair shots, but when he covers Drew, he kicks out at 1 like an absolute beast. He sends Drew into the bottom rope, throat first, a thumb to the eye, and he sends him into the steel steps. Eventually, Drew fights back and sends Randy through a table, and they pipe in, "This is awesome" chants. Randy hits a draping DDT, but Drew kicks out at 1 again. Randy decides that he's going to play some mind games. He takes bolt cutters to the door and leaves the cell. Drew follows him out there, and there's a bit more brawling on the outside. Randy starts to climb, and Drew gives chase. Once they're on top, Randy hits Drew with a steel pipe, and then starts climbing down. Drew gives chase again. They have a bit of a scrap on the side of the cage, but Drew ends up taking a tumble through the announce table to the floor. There's more piped in chants of "holy shit" at this point, which made me laugh. Then the commentary team start putting over that Drew is bleeding from the mouth. He's selling for a couple of minutes and he sounds like he's in a lot of pain at this point, almost to a comical point a few times, I'm not gonna lie. Just from an audible point of view, he was just sort of selling like and it really made me laugh. But nonetheless, I thought it was a pretty cool spot having him go off the side of the cage. Then once Drew's done selling, they get back in the ring. Randy tries for an RKO, but Drew hits a Claymore. Randy rolls out of the ring. Drew goes for a second Claymore, but Randy counters, hits the RKO, and picks up the win. It's a shame things had to end this way for Drew, to be honest. I feel like he could have had a way better run than what they let him have. He pretty much only had to deal with Randy Orton, and I just feel like he could have done so much better. He could have had so much more opportunity than this, and had some really good matches with other people, and instead they just dragged this feud out for months and months, and then done what we all knew was going to happen. This was so spelt out. The fact that Randy got another shot meant that it was inevitable that he was going to win. They weren't going to have him go for it again and lose, and with the rumours of Edge winning the Rumble, it just all felt really obvious and already spelt out, and I just think it's a shame. Did I enjoy the match? Yeah, I thought it was a really good brawl. I did think it was entertaining. I felt like it was a little bit slow in places, but I really enjoyed Drew taking that tumble off the side of the cage. I wish I could have seen it, but it's still a cool story beat to the match. I don't know what's next for Drew McIntyre. I don't know where they go with him from here. It's not like he can stay in the main event scene. Dear God, do not let him go after Randy, because they can't drag this feud out anymore. Randy won pretty cleanly there, and it was quite decisive. So what you do with Drew, I don't know. I wish that they'd just let Randy win it at Clash of Champions, so Drew could have got drafted to SmackDown and maybe gone in a feud with Roman or Big E or something like that, because I just don't know where you go with him from here. I feel like he's just going to get put against AJ so that they can have him squaring off with that big bodyguard that AJ's now got. What a shame. What an absolute shame for Drew McIntyre. I'm sorry, pal. Things could have been so much better for you. All in all, a mixed bag when it comes to this pay-per-view, really. There was some stuff that I thought was genuinely good, that I found entertaining, that I loved, and some stuff that I thought was boring and pointless and found extremely frustrating. But in general, the 3 cell matches were highlights of the night. I genuinely enjoyed them. Roman vs Jey was one of my favourite matches of this year. Sasha and Bayley, I feel like I would have enjoyed a bit more if I'd have had all of the visuals, if I could have seen the weapons shots, the inventive spots, the brutality of it all. But in terms of that, I did actually enjoy it still, and the brawl between Drew and Randy was entertaining, but the rest of it just sort of felt like filler, and there was some really frustrating stuff. I'd love to know what you guys thought. If you've got any thoughts on Hell in a Cell, drop them in the comments section and we'll have a chat about it. That's all we've got time for today, guys. I'll see you this weekend for the WITD Weekly. Cheers for spending this time with me, but for now I'm off, and you should have a good one.